Faith without works is dead. You
Yeah.
have to take action. Mindset and taking action are the two. That's the first thing is mindset. The last step is taking action. Now, once you do some of the things in between, which is another obstacle, is proper protection.
Hi, this is Garrett Sutton, and you're listening to the Average Joe Finances Podcast.
Welcome to the Average Joe Finances Podcast. Are you trying to get out of debt, invest, or just not sure where to start? Then this is the place for you. We discuss different ways to get out of the rat race and build your wealth. Join us on this wild ride to financial freedom.
Hey, welcome back to the Average Joe Finances Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Cavaggioni, and today's guest is Dr. Wendy Labat. So, Doc, thank you so much for joining me on the show. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. We've been trying to make this happen for a little while now. Each time that we had COVID run through our house and some other stuff, so we had to reschedule a couple times. So I appreciate your flexibility, and I'm so happy to finally get the chance to speak with you today. So speaking of, I want to start this off the same way I start every podcast episode, and we want to know more about you. So if you could tell us a little bit about yourself, share your story. Who is Dr. Labat?
I'll start not way back because I got a few years on me here, but I started my entrepreneurial journey almost 4 decades ago. I guess I was about 2 years old back then. But
you were really young when you started.
Yeah, I was. I started an office equipment company. I didn't have any business experience. I had very little money, but the Spirit led me to do that. And it was a time when there was no internet, social media, and the only thing you could do with the cell phone was make an expensive phone call. But my clients were corporations and government agencies. So in order to be considered for the big contracts, you had to have a certain image, which meant having the brick and mortar, employees, carry inventory, and all the overhead that goes with it. So I did that because that's what they said I needed to do. And like I said, I was a rookie entrepreneur. And at first it was tight. It was fun. I wasn't making any money, but I loved what I was doing. I had made money before, hated what I was doing. So I was like, okay, I love this. And the fact that I loved it so much and not making any money, that's why I stayed in there. But right when things were getting tough, I was like, okay, I need to do something. So I had a mentor. And my mentor advised me how to do things, how to structure things. And then right when I thought it was going to be like the end, I wasn't giving up, but I thought it was going to be the end. I ended up getting my first big contract because that's what I went for. And it was pretty good. I got it and my clients were happy. I was happy. But the only thing about it is I had those on the books, but I didn't have the money in the bank. So I told my mentors, like, okay, I got all this business and I'm delivering, but they ain't paying. So he said, look, what are the terms of your contract say? So I told him, what they said. He said, you need to make an appointment and talk with them. And the fact that I was a rookie, I'm afraid if I say something, then they're going to take this business from me. But I had the contract, so they really couldn't take it because I was doing my part. But when I met with the purchasing department is who actually awards the contract, but accounts payable is who actually pays the invoices, and they weren't really communicating because with corporations, they got their way of doing things and they just do it how they want to do it without consideration of what the contract says. And it was okay because once I actually talked with them, they weren't realizing that I wasn't getting paid according to the terms. So they wanted me to be in business. This is a time when being a minority female-owned business really meant something for everybody. It was mutually beneficial. So they ended up starting to pay on time, sometime even before the terms. And so I said, okay, this is pretty cool. So I ended up going and talking to my vendors because they weren't minority or female. And I said, look, I need better pricing. I need better terms because I'm bringing business that you wouldn't normally get. So they agreed. And like I said, again, a mutually beneficial relationship. So everybody was happy. So eventually I got out of that business after about, 15, 18 years. And I got into the tax preparation business, which I'm still in today. And in 2014, Affordable Care Act mandated that everybody have health insurance. So, of course, I wanted to I didn't want to be a hypocrite. So I bought all the products and services that I was selling to my clients because everybody, was asking, what do you have? Where's your money? And I can honestly say what I had and where my money was. So in 2017, I was diagnosed with a very aggressive form of breast cancer. So I said, okay, do you want to be aggressive? I'm going to be aggressive because I'm conquering breast cancer. So I went through chemotherapy every 3 weeks for a year, 5 surgeries, all the CAT scans, PET scans, lab, medication, everything that it took to battle that and conquer that disease. And my medical bills were almost $1.5 million. But because I practiced what I preached, my insurance paid all that. And then all those supplemental policies and coverages that I bought, not thinking I would ever use it, I bought it strictly from a marketing perspective and business perspective. But they brought me multiple 6-figure financial tax-free shots in the arms that allowed me to focus on my recovery instead of worrying about money. My business was flowing because I've been in business, about 35 years back then, and everything fine. So I said, okay, Lord, once I conquered the disease, I said, I'm happy, I'm healthy, I'm wealthy, I'm in my comfort zone, I'm good. And he's, no, I got you out of this journey better than when you went in. So you're going on a crusade to empower other people to not let an illness or injury ruin them financially. And you're also going to help people take control of their finances and have optimum financial health. So that's where the financial cures came into play. I started this company and it's been going great. I've written 2 books in my Financial Cures book series. I've got a master class. I got a TV show. It's coming together. It's really working out. So that's Dr. Wendy Labat, the financial healer.
There we go. I love that. Yeah. And I love how you got to the point where you decided that this was the route you wanted to go. Like, it wasn't about you want to build this huge business for yourself. This was about giving back, right?
Mm-hmm.
And helping other people on their own journeys. So I really love how you were able to just shift that whole thing. Like, hey, I'm good now. I got enough. And you're like, nope. It's time to give back and help other people. Can we talk about that a little bit? So let's talk a little bit about the books that you've written. I know you said you have a master class as well. So what are some of the tools that you use to help your clients get their finances right and just get in that right mindset?
First is the mindset, trying to get them not only the mindset, given the knowledge, because there is a lot of knowledge deficiency when it comes to finances. And you don't have to have a doctorate degree, but you have to know some basic principles. You have to develop discipline. And that's the first thing I do with my clients. Send them on a spending challenge. I don't send them, but I say, you got to do this spending challenge, which helps them identify where their money is going, because people are saying, oh, I can't afford this, or I can't do that. But when they do the spending challenge, they're finding that they've got hundreds, sometimes even thousands of dollars that they can redirect to things that they need to be doing. And that's really helps them with the mindset. It helps them with the discipline, because I have one client, it was so funny. He was a businessman and he took the challenge. And after 30 days, he said, Wendy, I spent $800 eating out. I said, okay, did you take your clients out or something? He said, no, this was me and my wife and sometime the grandkids. And it wasn't that he couldn't afford to do it, but it was an aha moment for him, saying, with $800, all I got is a few pounds and extra pounds, instead of being able to use that to pay a credit card or a utility bill, or even build up his reserve or other things that can be more beneficial to him. And I find that everybody that does it, I have one client I just worked with recently, very good with her finances, very disciplined. But when she did that spending challenge, she's like, Wendy, I thought I had together with my money, and I'm finding I'm spending money that I really don't need to be spending. So it really changed her mindset as well. So that's the first thing, because people have to have the right mindset, whether you're talking about money or losing weight or some kind of addiction. The mindset is key. You have to be ready.
I absolutely love that. I think discipline is probably one of the hardest things people struggle with when it comes to their finances. And it's not so much the discipline piece itself, it's that mindset that you were talking about. It's maybe not even realizing what they're doing while they're doing it. I know when I actually got my finances together, I had to sit down and take a look at my bank account and look at what I was actually spending all my money on. And same thing, like I had that realization when I looked at how much I spent on going out to eat, it blew my mind. And I'm like, I really spent that much on going out to eat, and really, oh, what did I gain from that? Wait, I absolutely love that, and I appreciate the transparency there with some of the struggles that your clients have dealt with, but also the realizations that they came to when they realized it happened during that challenge. So I think that's fantastic. That's a great way to get things started. Now, once they do this challenge and they realize, okay, cool, now I understand where my money's going. What do you do to help them like rope that in and figure out how to either mitigate some of that or just change how they spend?
I teach them about discipline, or tell them about discipline. I said, when you're ready to spend something that you know you're not supposed to be getting, you have to identify, is it a need or a want? If it's a need, then, you got to spend it. But if it's a want, hey, think about discipline. How I define discipline to them is deciding what you want more over what you want now. If it's something you want more, then spend the money. If it's going toward what you want more. But if it's just something you want now, hey, you can do without, you can wait, you can be patient. And then I also have them, I'm doing a mini class about living the VIP life using points, rewards, and miles. And I tell them you can get what you want and you don't always have to pay for it. But I try to get them, once they're disciplined enough, I tell them, look, your credit cards, you have a strategy where you buy what you want or pay for everything you need to pay for your utilities, whatever you can pay on the credit card, pay it. But you have to have the discipline to pay that credit card off when the bill comes. And that builds up points where you can get, I love points. I'm a points queen. And I've traveled first class on the airlines and didn't cost me the basic $24 fee to use your points. And I stay in 5-star hotels in a suite or with points. And that's how you can live that VIP life or get what you want without spending the money. And then you also have to just take advantage of every loyalty program. You spend your money, you sign up for their loyalty program, because even McDonald's has one. And I'm not really a McDonald's fan, but when I go in McDonald's, what I want would cost me about $10. But because I have the points and everything, I spend maybe $1. So it's things like that that will keep you from spending money unnecessarily. And you can still get what you want, but you don't have to spend the money.
Yeah, I love that whole delayed gratification, right? Mm-hmm. When you're talking about this discipline piece, I feel like that's one of the biggest things. Hey, you're going to be able to get that. It's just going to be delayed a bit. And when you delay it, it's so much better when you delay it, right? But yeah, take advantage of these loyalty programs. I was always like big on, I don't want to really use my credit cards because I felt like that always spelt trouble for me. Now that I've gotten better and disciplined myself, it's like, I want to use them as much as possible to get these points. And then of course I pay them down before the interest hits. But now I get all these points that I could use towards other things. Literally, if I wanted to, with my Amex Platinum, I could go buy a couple $100 worth of stuff off Amazon for free with just my points alone. I can go get a free plane ticket. There's just these little things that you can get that you could take advantage of just for being part of these different loyalty programs or the credit card points and things like that. I think that's huge and maybe something that people don't really think about too much. So you don't have to be scared once you're disciplined. And I feel like that's the commonality that a lot of people have, is that there's fear. They get themselves to the point where they discipline themselves, but then that fear comes out where it's, I don't want to use my credit cards because I'm scared I'll get into debt. So once you can distinguish the two of them, fear versus the discipline, you can put yourself in a much better spot. Now, speaking of distinctions and distinguishing things from each other, is there a specific distinction between financial literacy and financial health?
There's a lot of focus on physical health, mental health, but no focus on, I shouldn't say no, but very little emphasis on financial health. And people confuse and conflate financial health with financial literacy. But the difference is you can be financially literate and still have poor, even fatal financial health. It's just like going to the doctor. You know you're supposed to exercise, eat. You go to the doctor and they say, okay, you got high blood pressure, you're 20 pounds overweight. It's the health is key. The financial health is key. Literacy, you got to have some sense of literacy. You have to have some. You don't have to be, like I said, you don't have to have a doctorate degree, but you got to know some basic principles about how compound interest works. If you don't understand it, you'll pay it. If you do understand it, you'll earn it. And you have to just know that you don't spend more than you make, just basic stuff. And if you know that and apply that with the discipline and the mindset, then, you'll eventually have good, excellent, optimized financial health. But it is a difference, yes.
Yeah, that's a very good point too, because you could have all the knowledge in the world, but if you're not like taking the appropriate action with that knowledge, if you're not executing, everything's still going to be the same as it was. I talk about like my pillars of building wealth, and that's part of it is like that education piece, right? But the other piece is taking action, right? So if you don't take the appropriate action, you're going to suffer the consequences in the end. So you can read all the books that you want. You can watch all the YouTube videos you want. You can listen to this podcast and other podcasts that tell you what to do or different strategies that you can do. But if you don't actually execute on those strategies, you're going to just keep wallowing in your sorrow and listening to these episodes and saying, man, I wish this would work for me. Well, it would work for you.
Faith without works is dead. You have to take action. Mindset and taking action are the two. That's the first thing is mindset. The last step is taking action. Now, once you do some of the things in between, which is another obstacle, is proper protection. I do insurance. I do health insurance, life insurance, and that's a pillar to create wealth. And a lot of people don't want, and then your health is your wealth, because you can have all the money in the world, but if you're not healthy, what good is it? And I tell people, make that a priority. I have folks that I write that I give them really good plans, and they're like, I don't go to the doctors. Just because you don't go doesn't mean nothing's wrong. Doesn't mean you got an ailment.
Doesn't mean you
don't have an ailment. That's why people die, because they wait too late to go. But when, they realize that it's a priority, and I said, it's just as affordable as anything else. And that's where the spending challenge comes in. When you say, oh, I can't afford it. Look at what you're spending on Starbucks every day. That's your premium right there. They have to have the proper protection. That's one thing that really saved me, because I would have had, like I said, almost $1.5 million worth of medical bills if I didn't have the proper protection. I wouldn't have gotten those multiple six-figure checks, if I didn't have the proper protection. So that's key. People insure their cell phones, their houses, their cars, but they don't want to insure their lives. And you don't want to leave your family with the burden of funeral expenses, medical bills, and all that kind of stuff. So people have to understand that building wealth, part of that legacy is having the proper protection.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Great points there, because I feel like not enough people talk about the importance of just insurance in general, whether it's your health insurance, life insurance, business insurance. There's so many different pieces. You don't even think about it, but if you own a home, you have to have home insurance if you have a mortgage on it, right? If you own a vehicle, to make it legal on the road, you have to have car insurance, right? These are just like necessities that you absolutely have to have. But then there's certain things that aren't mandatory for you to have that we neglect, like your own life insurance, your own medical insurance, and things like that. So again, I feel like the discipline plays such a big piece in that, right? So what are some of the things that you do to help your clients with understanding not only the discipline piece, but like the actual taking action piece, right? So once they've got that down, what do you do to help guide them in the right direction to take the appropriate action for their own financial journey?
Like I said, first we diagnose their financial health to see where they are, because people have more income than they realize. They just figure when they're doing or planning where their money goes. See, I try to change the terminology, because when you say budget, people shut down. But when you plan where your money goes, you have to know what money you have. And it's not just your paycheck. It's not just retirement or anything like that. You've got money that you really, like say, the points and rewards, cash back, that's money, and you need to factor that in. So we get them to factor it in. Then where do you want to be? Do you want to eliminate debt? Do you want to reduce expenses? What do you want to be the end result? So once we see where they are, what they've got, and what the end result, we develop a strategy. And the strategy will get them there. And like I tell them, it's not going to happen overnight. And the discipline and taking advantage of the points, rewards, and miles, and a lot of other things, renegotiating your utilities and your cell phone, those are negotiable. Like I tell people, just because they say that's how much it costs doesn't mean that's how much you have to pay. Everything's negotiable. And we get them to take steps and increments. And you're not going to take one big leap. You take your baby steps. And the better you get to walking, then the faster you can go. So until you can walk, right now you're crawling, and some of them aren't even crawling. They're just getting on their knees and trying to work their way forward. So it just depends on who I'm dealing with. But we always start with diagnosing their financial health, developing a strategy for them, helping them get that discipline, and then moving them in the baby steps to get to where they want to go. And another factor that I talk about is the tax codes and tax laws, because I have a tax business and people don't have a strategy a lot of times. They just figure, okay, they pay their taxes out of their check or through their business or however. And then at the end of the year, they file it. And some people get money back, some people don't. But you don't do it like that. You have to have a strategy. You want to have a strategy to either maximize your refund or minimize your liability. And people don't understand that IRAs and 401ks and 403bs, those are tax codes. And they think, oh, I got an IRA or I got a 401k, I'm doing good, I can retire. But they don't realize that's like the seed is tax-free, but the harvest is taxable. I've got some clients that made a lot of money. They got nice IRAs now, retirement accounts, but they're paying more taxes now because they got that tax-free investment, but they're getting some significant harvest or payouts. And the kids are grown, the houses are paid for, so they don't have the same deduction. So I try to encourage all my clients to start a business. I don't care what it is, have a business on the books, because you need those expenses. Yeah. You need to be able to bring that income down. There's no sense for you to work 30 years and you're getting good money, or even those that aren't getting good money, you're still paying taxes on money that you've already earned years ago. So, you have to understand how those tax codes are impacting your income.
Hey everyone, Mike with Average Joe Finances. The Real Estate Wealth Builders Conference, aka RubeCon, is on for 2023. It'll be May 4th through the 6th in Phoenix, Arizona at the Sheraton downtown. I'll be speaking again this year and I want to see you there. This year I'm doing 2 speaking events, one about growing your investor network through podcasting, and the other is about investing while in the military. We have some great speakers lined up, so you don't want to miss this conference. Visit averagejoefinances.com/RubeCon, REWBCON, or the link in the notes below, and use promo code Mike for discounted tickets. See you there.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Mike Cav from Average Joe Finances. Just want to talk to you today about Prep Agent. If you're interested in learning how to become a real estate agent and being able to pass the test on your first try, check out Prep Agent at www.prepagent.com. Use code AVGJOE, that's Average Joe, AVGJOE, to get an additional 20% off. Let's get back to today's episode.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people don't realize that when you go to retire, your income at that point is probably the highest it's ever been. So you're in a much higher tax bracket, right? You don't know what the laws are going to be 20, 30 years from now. And you put yourself in a situation where you retire and you're paying more in taxes than you ever expected to. So that money that you had saved up, that retirement account that you thought this was enough for me to live off of, might not carry all the way out to as far as you thought it was going to go originally because of that tax burden that now you're stuck with. So I think, that's a very important piece of that financial literacy too. Don't just learn about compound interest and about how great it is to invest and watch your wealth grow. You also need to understand how to protect that wealth by protecting it. And I'm not saying not pay taxes, because we all have to do our constitutional duty, right? To keep this government running. Like, we all have to pay taxes, but there are different ways to mitigate how much you have to pay. It's all written into the tax code. And that's why it's important to learn that piece. So I'm really glad that you bring that up, because there's so many people have these conversations on the show all the time. And we always talk about like the up and up, but you have to look at the back end as well and look at, what are the potential tax burdens that you might encounter in the future if you're not paying attention to what you're doing. So yeah, opening a business, like you said, like that's fantastic. A great way to get some stuff to write off, expenses that you could write off for your business. Because again, and you brought up something else that I really like too, that I don't think a lot of people think about. When you're getting closer to retirement age, if you bought a home when you were younger and you're starting your family out and everything, you're probably very close to paying that home off at that point, if not already having it paid off. And you no longer have that deduction that you can claim.
Yeah,
so that's a very good point. And even if you're not paid off yet, you're paying much less interest than you were when you first got that mortgage. Even if you had a couple of years left, that write-off that you have is nothing compared to what it was 20, 30 years ago.
And the tax laws have changed to where they've capped that mortgage interest at $10,000. So if you're living in a multi-million, or not even a multi-million-dollar house, if you're living in a $500,000 house, and your interest is probably going to be more than $10,000, but you can only write off $10,000. Another thing about the IRAs that I do want to point out in the 401ks is that every time you deduct, you have to deduct enough to cover the taxes as well. Once you're at age where you don't pay a penalty to pull it out, you're pulling out from your principal. So your money is dwindling away, and it may only last you 15 years after retirement. That's why you see some people being Walmart greeters or having a second job or a job after retirement, because they're chipping away at the principal. But I get my clients to get index universal life policies that continually build. And when you pull money out, you pull it under tax code 7702, which means it's tax free. And you could pay it back if you want to, but you don't have to. But it doesn't affect your principal. You're taking a loan out versus drawing down off your principal. So your money keeps growing, and you can draw for that to you like age 100 and still have a significant amount to leave your family. So you got to have a strategy. I don't care what you're doing. You got to have a strategy.
Yeah, no, I love that. That's huge. No matter what you do, have a plan, have a strategy, and then attack it full force. Definitely.
Yeah.
All right. Now you started off, right? You started off you did office supplies. You had a business doing office supplies, office equipment, right? So doing that for about 15 years, you said. And what was it that made you want to get into the finance side and the tax preparation side instead of continuing with your business?
It got to be too competitive, because back then, if you sold office equipment, there were only a few dealers that sold office equipment. You had to be with a company, and you had territory, so nobody else is going to be in your territory. But then eventually everybody started selling office equipment, Office Depot and the Sam's Club, wherever. You can go anywhere and get a copier or fax machine, because back then, fax machines weren't even a thing. But it got to be, for one, too, I remarried. So that was a factor. I couldn't travel as much. And really, Spirit just kind of led me out of it. It was time to move and make a change and pivot, as they say. So I pivoted, and it worked out pretty good. I learned what I need to learn. It made me a savvy businesswoman, because dealing with corporations and government agencies, you got to learn and know how to deal with that. It's a whole different ball game. But the principles are still the same. Business principles are business principles no matter what. But when you're in that arena, it's a different game.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I went from the corporate and government agency clientele to the consumers. With taxes, I do mostly personal tax. I've got some business clients, but my main bulk of my clients are consumers. It's an easier way to go. And then too, it's not being able to help people. It's being able to educate folks on how to not just wait to the end of the year and hope you get some money back. You have a strategy throughout the year. And I work with my clients for them to have a strategy. I don't want you to be in the same position tax-wise next year that you are this year. I want you to be in a better position. So that's how I got into that. And then the insurance, when they mandated that you have the insurance, it was all tied into the tax return. It's all reconciled. And then it was mandated. So people had to have it, but it's not mandated anymore, but it all ties together. So it worked out pretty good.
Yeah. I want to ask you, and I hope this isn't too personal, because I know this was probably a very difficult time in your life, But when you got that diagnosis, the breast cancer diagnosis, dealing with that, with everything else that you had going on, was that something that kind of helped accelerate what you're doing on this financial freedom journey, go a little bit more full force because you felt that, I guess, the mortality of it all, right? That we only have
Well,
this one life?
not really. When I found
Okay.
out, I'm a spiritual person, and it's just, as a matter of fact, it's been 5 years that I'm cancer free. And when I
That's
found
fantastic.
out, my doctor, there was a new doctor I started going to, new gynecologist. She ordered the mammogram. The radiologist said, okay, we see something. Let's do a biopsy. I'm like, cool, let's find out. If it's something, we're going to nip it in the bud. If it's nothing, praise the Lord. But it turned out to be something. But my doctor didn't even tell me I had it. The radiologist said, okay, in 3 days, we're going to have the results. So 3 days, I called the radiology department and said, no, you have to get the results from the ordering physician. I called there and I said, well, I'm calling for my results. And they said, you got to make an appointment. It's like, make me an appointment. And then when I thought that she was making me an appointment, she gets the office manager on saying, look, we don't make appointments for results. I said, how am I going to get my results? She said, well, you can come by and pick them up. I said, okay, I'll be there in 5 minutes. Got there. They hand me this sealed envelope. I go out to my car, open it up, and I see carcinoma. I got my degree in biology, so I know about carcinoma, what that means. And when I read it, I had a sense of peace that said, look, this isn't going to be a death sentence, but it's not going to be an easy journey. So I knew right then I wasn't going to die from this breast cancer. But I was saying, where do I go now? I don't know what to do, but I know I wasn't going back in that doctor's office because I think I would have cussed everybody out in there after seeing that. And I never heard back from that office. They never called to see what was going on until the next year want me to do a physical, take my name out of your roster. But anyway, I called a friend of mine who was a breast cancer conqueror, and she gave me her oncologist number, and I called them, and they were taking my information, but they didn't take the insurance I had. So she said, look, give me 5 minutes. I'm going to call you right back. And she called me right back, gave me the number of a lady, said she's expecting your call. I called them. It's to a real well-known cancer treatment center here in Atlanta. In 3 days, I had an appointment with an oncologist, and I went from there. And I never really, I have to say, God just kind of led me through and guided me, gave me the strength. I never even thought about doing the financial cures. That wasn't even part of the game. The thing was getting rid of this cancer. So when I went through the chemo, I was also at the final stretch of my doctorate degree. It was like going through all that. And one of my chair people said, she was a cancer conqueror. She said, Wendy, I hope you're not going to give up. It's give up. I'm about to graduate. You think I'm going to give up after all these years? Heck no, I'm not giving up. So I ended up going through that, getting the chemo. Brain can remember what I was about to say or what I just said, but it all worked out. And then once I finished, I was able to graduate, walk across the stage, get my doctorate degree, but my family was all supportive. But I didn't think about doing any other business because my business, I'm in my comfort zone. It's flowing. I've been in business 30-something years and money's flowing. Customers are happy. They were sympathetic because they knew my situation, but my employees and everybody kept it going. Nobody had any issues. And I wasn't trying to do anything else. I was like, up in age. So I wasn't trying to add anything else to my plate. But the Spirit said, look, you went through that for a reason. And now it's time for you to go out on this crusade. And that's why I started this, because I'm being obedient to what the Spirit's leading me to do. So that's how all that came into play. And that's why it's going so well,
I appreciate that transparency and just what a fight that you fought to get to where you are today. It's just absolutely amazing. It's disheartening to hear how that first doctor's office handled things. I don't think that's the right way to give those kind of results to somebody. But you've persevered and you conquered, and that's and everything that you're doing now on this journey that you're on right now. It's just amazing that you're, after all that you've been through, that you choose to give back and help others. Is just a testament to you as an individual and just how good-hearted and good-natured you are. So thank you for that.
Thank you. I've been blessed to be a blessing. That's my thing, is
That's
that God's
fantastic.
blessed me to be a blessing to others. And after you've
Yeah.
lived as long as I have, I've been there. I've been
42
selfish.
years, right?
Yeah.
42 years.
No, that's right. I've been there, done that. And I'm just glad that I have the perspective and the discernment that I have, because I didn't always have it. I tell my clients, don't be embarrassed about your situation. People don't want to talk about their finance, but tell them I've been bankrupt, foreclosed, repoed. I've been all that. That's why I know what I'm talking about, because I know firsthand what it's like to go through those stages. And it's nothing to be embarrassed about. These are lessons that you learn, and you'll appreciate it once you get on the other side.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. Okay, Dr. Labat, I would like to transition this into something that we call the final round. It's where I'm going to ask you the same 4 questions I ask everybody that comes on this show, and it helps give us a perspective of how you are in tough situations or under pressure, which I think we already get that, picking up that vibe from you. All right, so if you're ready to go, we'll get this party started.
I'm ready.
All right, let's do it. So the first question I have is, what's the biggest mistake you've ever made in your finances?
I think the biggest mistake is not learning from my mistakes. And I don't consider at this stage, I don't consider them mistakes. I consider them lessons. Back then they were mistakes because I wasn't learning from them. So you end up doing the same thing over and over. You take that same class over and over. But now I know better. So I just learn from whatever it is that didn't turn out what I thought it should or how I wanted it to. I say, okay, what did I learn from that? What should I learn from that? And that's what I don't consider mistakes anymore. I just figure it lessons that I either learned from the first time, or I just kept taking that little course over and over again.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. Because I feel like, and I've talked about this on the show a lot too, like when it comes down to it, any mistakes that you make should be seen as a learning opportunity. So you don't make those again in the future. Treat it as an education. Okay, awesome. So speaking of that, this next question kind of ties into that. What is something that you've learned that you wish you knew when you first started?
Well, it's a whole lot of that. And I guess I wouldn't, if I knew it when I first started, it wouldn't have the same impact. But I guess just the discipline and the humility of listening to what people tell you and understanding that it doesn't have to be your situation, but at least listen to it and glean from it, and just be more receptive to not opinions of others, but input or information that others can provide. And don't be afraid to ask. I don't think I've ever been afraid to ask, but there's sometimes you just say, okay, I know I'm going to do my thing. Sometimes you have to say your thing ain't always the thing you need to be doing. So I guess being more receptive and open to other options.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair. Definitely appreciate that perspective. All right. Third question. And again, this all kind of ties into it. Do you have any tips or tricks that you would recommend to someone that is just getting started out today?
For one, I got a couple. One is for the business side. I do taxes, so I got a lot of folks that have that side hustle, and that's okay. But make it a legitimate business. Get your name reserved. Get your entity established, whether it's going to be a corporation, LLC, or whatever. Get that legal entity and just handle your business and realize business is one thing and personal or family is another. Because people say, oh, it's my family or it's my friend. But hey, it's business. You treat them just like a customer, not like they're your family or not like your friend. And like saying, just handle your business. Remember that you want to treat people the way you want to be treated. Don't think you're going to try to get over on somebody, and don't just do it for the money. Just do the right thing. That's the main thing.
All right. I absolutely love that. Okay. And final question of the final round, and I'll preface this with, besides your own, but do you have a favorite business, investing, or real estate related book or podcast, or both?
Since you said not my own.
We'll get to that.
Yeah, I would say the one that really made the biggest impact is Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I had been in business for years before when I read that book, but just that whole perspective. And I'm a Robert Kiyosaki fan. I've gotten to meet Sharon Lecter, which I didn't realize she was one of the authors until I met her, or right before I met her. But the whole thing of, it's not about how much money you make, but how much money you keep. how hard your money works for you and how many generations you keep it for. That's the whole strategy. I got folks that make a lot of money, but they don't keep it. I got some folks that don't make a lot of money that they keep it because they got that money working for them. So that whole quote, I preface a lot of my workshops with that, because if you can do that, then you'll have your wealth and your family will have the wealth and you'll have that generational wealth.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And it's a great foundational book for anyone that wants to get out there and start a business or just build that financial foundation to just build their life on. I absolutely love that book. It was one of the ones that actually changed my whole perspective as well when it comes to my finances, what I'm doing with my money, how to get it to work for me, not me working for it. So I think that's huge. Okay, that is it for the final round. However, I do have one more question for you, and it is the most important question of this interview, because people are sitting here listening saying, hey, I really like what Dr. Labat's sharing with us. The information she's putting out, her journey has been absolutely amazing, and we want to know more about her. So please tell us, where can people find more information about you? You have a website, social media, anything like that you can share with us, and where can we pick up your books?
Okay. First thing, I've got a TV show and I want to direct people to my TV show. If you go to FinCures, that's FINCURES.com, it'll show, I just released season 2 of the Financial Cures with Dr. Wendy Labat. And that gives you 12 episodes that really are dynamic to help anybody, no matter what stage they're in with their finances. And it also gives my contact information. But I want to give my website as well, which is thefinancialcures.com, which gives everything about my company, about me, about different podcasts. Your podcast is going to be on, the episode will be on there. And it just gives just a kind of a big picture of what I'm doing. And we're constantly improving and adding. And then I do have a workshop that I'm going to be offering every week. This week's is going to start, I don't know what the timing is on this, but October 17th, 18th. We're going to start the workshop called the Financial Cures Prescription. It's only an hour and a half long, and you can go to FinCures, that's FINCURES.eventbrite.com, and use the promo code CURE, CURE, and you get a discount. And it's not expensive, but we're going to talk about everything we talked about today and a little bit more. And it also gives you an opportunity to save money on my masterclass. And then, like I said, the social media, I'm on all of them. As far as is Dr. Wendy Labat or Wendy Labat on Facebook. I think I got 3. But then if you want my book, you go to Amazon.com and just put in Wendy Labat or Diagnose Your Financial Health, and it'll show all the books. I've got some other anthologies I've been a part of that are there as well. But book number 3 is coming out at the end of the year, which is Protect Your Financial Health. I've got Your Financial Health, Optimize Your Financial Health, and this 3rd book is going to be Protect Your Financial Health. It's all part of the Financial Cures book series.
That sounds like a fantastic book series. All right, I'm going to make sure we make it easy for our listeners. Those links will be in the show notes, so you can just copy paste or click away. Just don't do it while you're driving. But Dr. Wendy Labat, this has been a fantastic interview. I had such a great time talking with you, listening to your story, and just your own personal journey, as well as what you're doing to help others, has just been absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Well, thank you. I've had a ball talking with you. Like I said, this has been worth the wait all these times. And yet kind of put it off. I'm just glad we were able to get it done. It's been a pleasure being on your show, and I look forward to seeing the episode. And I do see your other podcasts. When you post them, I do watch them.
Awesome. I know I've gotten some of those emails from you. I appreciate that feedback. So thank you so much.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. And I thank you again. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. And hey, to my listeners, thank you so much for joining me and our special guest, Dr. Wendy Labat, on the Average Joe Finances podcast. Go leave us a 5-star review and tell us what you liked about today's episode with Dr. Labat. Aloha from Hawaii, and have a great rest of your day. Thank you for making it to the end of this episode. Greatly appreciate you being here with me today on the Average Joe Finances podcast. If you haven't done so yet, make this the episode that you go leave us a 5-star rating or subscribe to our YouTube channel. The Average Joe Finances podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. Have an outstanding day.
Thanks for listening to the Average Joe Finances Podcast, your source for beating debt, saving money, and investing. Learn more at averagejoefinances.com.